Hello, Mrs. Linder. My essay topic was on oil prices and what specifically in the Middle East has been making them rise over the years, and which ones have been affecting it the most and how we can fix them in general. So, my first goal was to integrate and evaluate multiple sources of information presented in different media or formats in order to address a question or solve a problem. Now, my goal for this was to use at least 7 sources from articles, newspapers, or websites, and trying to use at least 1 to 2 quotes from each one of them in my essay. Now, I managed to do this. I used 7 sources, all from databases, and I used at least 1 quote from each. Now, this was difficult for me because I do not like using advanced search because I just find it confusing with the and the or, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. I would rather just search up stuff like, just basically, like on your topic, like, say for mine was oil. I'd rather just search up something for oil and try to find the best topic instead of using the advanced search to find stuff. It's just confusing for me, but I managed to do it, and I used 2 of them from newspapers, 3 from databases, and 1 article. And I think the easiest to use in my paper was the newspaper ones because they just tied in like greatly and they had most to do with my topic. And that's just about it with the newspaper and the articles. They were kind of hard because none of them were exactly about my topic, but they were around there, so that was good. And that's about it for my first goal. So my second goal was to acquire and accurately use general academic words and phrases sufficient for reading, writing, speaking, and listening at college and career readiness level. Now my goal for this was whenever I have a boring word, such as bad or good, I look up a synonym for it just to make my paper seem more interesting and descriptive so it can be more specific. And the second part was trying to use more description in my just like specific details so they're not as boring and bland and they actually describe things well instead of just kind of saying something and then the person not knowing any background information on it or anything like that. Now, what I did was when I used a word like bad or good, I made sure I went on a dictionary website and searched up that word and searched synonyms for it so I could get words like amazing, awesome, and just more descriptive words so it's just not as boring. What I did for the description part was, whenever I used a specific detail, I made sure if the reader knew nothing about that topic, that they would still understand when reading this. Now, if they didn't understand, then that just wouldn't be good if you didn't use as much descriptive words and just description itself. Then they wouldn't know what your paper like was about, or if they didn't know where a country was or what that country was about, and just that in general. And that's about it for my second one. Now, for my third goal was to develop and strengthen writing as needed by planning, revising, editing, rewriting, or trying a new approach, focusing on addressing what is most significant for a specific purpose and audience. Now, this was probably the hardest goal for me because I'm really bad at just trying to re edit my stuff after I write it. And what I tried to do was after I wrote a paragraph, I would reread it a couple times and make sure everything sounded good, and I'd annotate on it what seemed wrong, if anything was spelled wrong, periods, commas, and all that stuff, and I'd made sure everything was just correct, all the grammar was correct, and all that type of stuff. I had my parents proofread my paper just to make sure also, because sometimes I don't have the best of grammar. And when I'm trying to rewrite my conclusion, I had to rewrite it 2 times because I just couldn't get it right and it just didn't sound right any of the times. So I had to keep doing that, keep just thinking, rewriting, annotating until it finally sounded pretty good where I thought it sounded at least good enough to keep. And that was pretty much the hardest trouble I had about this paper, was just proofreading it and making sure everything was perfect. So that's my third goal. So the overall process for This video has been very difficult. I do not like recording myself, and I hope to not do it anytime soon, but you have to do it, I guess. But alright, see ya, Mrs. Linder.